morning. When Jesus heard that John had been put in prison, he withdrew to Galilee. Leaving Nazareth, he went and lived in Capernaum, which was by the lake in the area of Zebulun and Naphtali, to fulfill what was said through the prophet Isaiah. Land of Zebulun and land of Naphtali, the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people living in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. From that time on, Jesus began to preach, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near." As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Would you please pray with me? Lord our God, use the words of my mouth, use the thoughts and meditations of our hearts and our minds, that what you would speak to us this morning may be heard, that we may be enriched by it, and go from this place as your people, sharing your good news. Hear our prayer, Lord, for it's in Christ's name that we pray. Amen. So our passage today talks about Jesus calling the first of the disciples, the first apostles. He's walking along the lake shore, the seashore, and he sees Simon Peter and his brother Andrew, and he says, "Come, follow me." And in calling his disciples, he's engaging in this kingdom work that he has initiated. And we can learn several things from this passage about what this kingdom work is like, and the people that are called to be involved in it. People like us. Jesus calls to Peter and to Andrew. He says, "Come, follow me." And I want you to notice what he didn't say. Jesus didn't go to them and say, "Hey guys, get your act together. And when you've got your act together, come see me, and I want you to be my disciples." He calls them to come follow him right where they are, just as they are. And notice the kind of people that he's calling as his first disciples. These are fishermen. He wasn't calling the elite. He didn't go to the synagogues. He wasn't looking for the best and the brightest. The ones he called first were fishermen. People who knew how to work with their hands. People who knew what labor was. And people who weren't necessarily the best company. Fishermen have always been fishermen. They were coarse. They were down to earth. They probably didn't have the best language. And Jesus doesn't tell them, "Get cleaned up and then come be my disciples." And so often people think that, well, before I go to church, I've got to get my act together. before I can be a disciple of Jesus, well, I've got some cleaning up to do inside. And that's the same kind of attitude that says, well, before I can go to the gym, I have to get in shape. Before I can go on a diet, I better lose some weight. It makes no sense. Jesus calls us to follow him right where we are. He doesn't tell us to clean up our act first and then follow him. Because it is in following him that we get cleaned up, that we get put into spiritual shape. He wants us to follow him right where we are. To get up and go now, whatever our situation is. And then the next thing he tells them, he says, come follow me. And in our NIV translation, I really like the NIV most of the time, but they really blew this part. Okay. Cindy read it the way it ought to be written. Jesus said, I will make you fishers of men, fishers of people. Not I will send you out to get you. The idea here is that these men were not equipped to be disciples. They were not equipped to be apostles. They weren't set to go out and start a movement that would change the world. They hadn't learned persuasive speech. They hadn't known how to dress for success. They were not equipped to be fishers of men. Jesus didn't say, that's why I want you to follow me. He said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. It's that old adage that Jesus doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. Whatever Jesus is calling you to do, he will make you into the kind of person that can do that. When we follow Christ, he transforms us and makes us into the kind of people that serve his kingdom, that are able to do the things he asks of us. And so when we look at those things we think we're being called to do, and we say, well, I can't do that. I don't have the right skill set. I don't have the right education. I don't have the right connections. Jesus says, I don't care about that. Because Jesus has the right skill set. He's got the right knowledge. He's got the right connections. And he will make you into what he wants you to be. See, Jesus transforms us as we follow him so that we can serve his kingdom and work with him in building the kingdom. But he doesn't just completely change us. Notice, he went to these fishermen and he didn't say, hey guys, I'm going to make you college professors. He says, I'm going to make you fishers of men. Jesus takes who we are and transforms us into who we are intended to be, what we were originally created to be. Paul talks a lot about how the old man dies and a new person is created when we start to follow Christ. But that new person that we become is recognizably us. We don't lose who we are as we follow Christ. But who we are is transformed into who we're supposed to be. And so when Jesus comes to fishermen, he says, I will make you fishers of men. I'm going to take who you are, and then you'll be able to serve the kingdom with that. And they were able to then relate to what they were called to do because they knew about fishing. And so they knew that being fishers of men, being people who are going to go out and tell people about Jesus and form the body of Christ, form the church, that it would take patience. And these weren't fishermen who used a rod and reel. They cast a net. They knew that they weren't going to go out and just seek individual people and just focus on that, catching that one big fish. They were going to cast a net and take in whatever God brought to them. And as fishermen, they knew about perseverance, they knew about hard work, and they knew that all this would be entailed in being fishers for people. And they also knew that this was not casual recreation. You see, they were not the kind of fishermen who went out on the weekend for fun. This was their livelihood. This was important. This was necessary work for them. And so they understood that what Jesus was calling them to do was important and necessary, and not just weekend recreation. But none of us here are commercial fishermen. None of us catch fish for a living. But we do other things. And so Jesus isn't going to come to those who are bankers and say, I'm going to make you fishers of men. He's going to say, no, I'm going to make you investors in people's lives. Those who invest in the kingdom. Because you know about that. And God's going to go to farmers and not say, I'm going to make you fishers of men. But I'm going to make you people who cultivate the soil so that people can grow and be enriched. And I'm going to make you into somebody who pays attention to the weeds that are out there so that they don't overtake the crop. I'm going to make you somebody who grows and nurtures people the same way you do your crops. And those who are involved in healthcare, he's not going to say, I'm going to teach you how to fish for people. No, he's going to say, I'm going to teach you how to care for souls, how to heal people's lives through me. To take what you understand about healthcare and apply that in a broader sense. Jesus takes who we are and transforms it so that we serve his kingdom. That is what he is calling us to as disciples. But Jesus doesn't just grab us and make us do what he wants us to do. Do you guys remember the story of the calling of the Apostle Fred? You guys remember that one? It's not in the Bible. You know why? Fred said, no, thanks, I'm busy. We don't hear about people who said no. We hear about Simon and Andrew and James and John. Why? Because Jesus said, come follow me, and they left everything behind and followed him. They left their nets. They left their boats. They left their father to follow Jesus. All those things that represented security, represented what was known, what was comfortable. Jesus said, follow me, and they left that behind. And so my question for you this morning is, what are you holding on to that keeps you from following Jesus? What is that net? What is that boat? What is that level of comfort and security that you're finding it hard to let go of? To be the worker for the kingdom that Jesus is calling you to be. He's not calling you to get in shape first. He's not calling you to be something completely different than the person you already are. He wants you right where you are, and he's going to transform you into what he needs you to be. What do you need to let go of so that he